If you have a child or you yourself have been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the chances are you believe it exists. One man, a paediatric neurologist from Chicago, Dr. Richard Saul, says it doesn't. He argues that the symptoms are actually those of other illnesses or conditions and that thousands of children are treated with drugs they don't need as a result. His theory has kicked off a controversy, as Jim Reid reports.
Often has trouble keeping attention on tasks.
Avoids, dislikes or doesn't want to do things that take a lot of mental...
It's the most common behavioural condition in the UK. These questions were written to help diagnose ADHD.
Blurts out answers before questions have been finished.
Loses things, is forgetful in daily activities.
11-year-old Kai Smith was identified with the disorder when he was 6. Like most people with ADHD, he also has a secondary condition, in his case, mild autism.
You can handle it, and you can have like pretty severe cases of it where like you can have talking difficulties, like you can get angry like a bit too easily and just lash out at people, and like you don't think before you do anything. I go through phases of running away from home.
The number of children like Kai recognised as suffering from ADHD has more than doubled in a decade. But rates in this country are still a fraction of what they are in the US, where 8.8% of children are now diagnosed with the condition. Some British doctors believe many ADHD cases are often missed. There is now a broad scientific consensus that a complex mix of genetic and environmental factors are responsible for the condition.
Everyone can get bored and fail to pay attention. Lots of people do daft things, but this is part of the warp and weft of ordinary human variation. It's when it's extreme and, most importantly, when it's impairing, the fact that it's messing up their lives and they can't help it.
And that's when you have an ADHD.
That's when you have ADHD. And it must be ADHD in its own right, not because of some other undetected condition.
Well, a new book creating a lot of controversy.
The title of the book, ADHD, does not exist.
But one doctor vehemently disagrees with the medical consensus. Neurologist Richard Saul argues those symptoms could instead be caused by something as simple as poor eyesight or diet.
Now that's raising a lot of eyebrows.
It's just an excuse, according to one American scientist.
Kai's mother takes real issue with that. She says her son has worked hard to cope with the disorder and the stimulant drugs he's prescribed help control any disruptive behaviour.
Perhaps he should try and raise a child or two with the condition. It's very easy to sit on the outside and judge.
To you it's very real then?
Yes, none of us want our children to be burdened with this, but you know, if you have to get the diagnosis to get the support, then so be it, because there isn't enough support out there for them. You know, I'm not excusing bad behaviour in any way, you know, it's not an excuse, but it is a reason.
Kai is now getting the help his mum believes is crucial. Many doctors say he's lucky and more children need this kind of support. Sceptics, though, think too many are being misdiagnosed with a disorder that simply doesn't exist.
That was Jim Reid, and we had hoped that Dr. Richard Saul would be joining us tonight, but we've had some problems getting him into the right studio in Chicago. However, we're joined by Andrea Bilbow, who founded the National Attention Deficit Disorder Information and Support Service, and we're very grateful you've come in. And is it conceivable that it has been misdiagnosed so widely, that it has been symptoms that have been mistaken for ADHD when it's been something else?
No, you know, this is a condition that has been so widely researched, 10,000 research papers over many years, research conducted by the top academic researchers in the world. It is the most researched condition that there is.
But you say that as if that was the end of the research. I mean, if somebody's producing a new understanding that suggests maybe children have been drugged needlessly, you know, put on medicines needlessly, aren't you interested in considering that?
You know, I've read his book, and that's not really what he's saying. And it seems to me this is an 80-year-old man who's still living in the 1950s. The information in his book is really quite outdated, and he's, you know, there's a chapter in his book where he talks about a child who displays all the symptoms of ADHD, very impulsive, hyperactive, distractible, runs around, and he says, this boy has something that I call neurochemical distractibility impulse disorder. which is exactly the same thing.
But he
treats it with Ritalin. So what is, you know...
But he also talks about finding children who've had an eyesight problem or a dietary problem and working out that by solving the fundamental, the real, as he would say, issue, you get rid of the symptoms that had been understood as ADHD.
That's not, you know, we're not talking... He's talking about something different. When you make a diagnosis of ADHD, the first thing you do is you rule out all of those things. Right. And you also have to understand that America and the UK are very different in the way that they approach ADHD and the way that they diagnose and treat. We are very cautious here, and we do have to rule out any other condition that may mimic the symptoms of ADHD.
And you're saying that's not the case in the US. I mean, do you think this will have ramifications here?
I think with this, what this book has done, you know, it's a very good publicity stunt. He's called his book ADHD Does Not Exist, but that's not what he's saying in the book. Right. The title is there to mislead you. He's actually said in the book, I've given it a provocative title, you know, to get the publicity into Sally's book.
I wish you were here to give us the response to that.
So
but
do
Andrea,
I.
thank you very much indeed
Thank you.
for coming in.